Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Booze Clues. This time, it is Halloween edition. Happy Halloween. It is spooky story time, and I cannot wait to read you the stories for this week. They are truly terrifying. You guys, I asked for Halloween stories, y'all delivered. Let me tell you, the way I actually feared for my life when reading some of these stories was I wasn't expecting it. I just wasn't. I thought that I'd get some silly, spooky Halloween stories, mostly funny ones. I did not. I I got a lot of scary ones. I was reading these and I said, "Holy shit. I can't wait to read these on the podcast because I've never been so scared in my life." So, hope you're all ready. And if you're watching on TikTok, do you like my costume? I am dressed up as 11. I've always wanted to dress up as 11, but I wasn't brave enough to shave my head. And now that I'm blonde, I figured I would be her in her pink dress with her blonde wig. So it worked out. What I didn't know, and I should have known this because I used it years ago and I guess I forgot, is that fake blood stains your skin. So I guess I'm going to school tomorrow with blood on my nose. That's fine. You know what I used that, I got it on TikTok. This isn't an ad though. This is about that Tarte under eye makeup on TikTok. It's all over TikTok shop. That stuff is phenomenal. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've been scammed so many times on this app about, different products." But I tried that Tarte under eye corrector and you guys, it is legit. It is so good. It's so good. So maybe I'll use that to cover up the blood on my nose. I don't know. We'll see if that works out. Anyways, welcome to this episode. I'm really excited to read you these stories. I'm always just blown away by the amount of people who write in and where you guys are from because I genuinely didn't think that I would get any stories written into me for a very long time. But you guys came through like the very first month that I decided to do this. Everyone has a story to tell. So if you have one, send it in. I promise I will get to it eventually, even if I don't get to it immediately. I like to comb through them and see what I have. This time I went through and I pulled out the best Halloween ones and they're so good. Oh my gosh, you guys. And you'll have to excuse me if I sound a little bit tired because it is a weeknight. I was at work all day. But you know what? I got to go to my daughter's first flag football game of the season. My 14, oh my God, she just turned 14. I don't know who let her do that. She's got to stop it. But I went to her first flag football game tonight and they killed it. They demolished the other team. It was so amazing. Those girls are beasts. Last year was the first year that they had a girls flag football team at their school, and this year they are so much more like confident and comfortable on the field. They did awesome, and I was cheering my head off. So I probably embarrassed her a little bit, but that's okay. That's kind of what I'm here for, right? And I'm sure that this isn't any less embarrassing to her than me screaming my head off at her game, me dressed up as 11 on the internet. But are you even a parent if you don't embarrass your kids every once in a while? I mean, I kind of live for it. I love it. They don't really care as much. So it makes it fun for us. David and I both love to do just like crazy shit and embarrass them. Speaking of David, we were talking tonight at the flag football game because somebody made a joke about one of the girls, like, "Oh, cool it on the Wheaties," because like she threw the ball so hard. And David was like, "Wheaties are so gross." And I was like, "Hey, don't hate on my Wheaties. Okay. I used to eat Wheaties with my grandpa." And he starts laughing at me and he was like, "Yeah, well, I guess I shouldn't make fun of you because I like grape nuts." And I was like, "Oh my God, are you 80?" And he was like, "You like Wheaties?" Listen, I used to eat them with my grandpa and he would sprinkle sugar on them. But then my grandma would get mad because he was diabetic and he wasn't supposed to do that. And she would be like, "Alex, stop putting sugar on your cereal." And he would go, "Oh, that's fine, Joan. Don't worry about it." But anyways, those are my grandparents' voices. They sound nothing like that. So I don't know why I said it like that. But I used to eat Wheaties with my grandpa. And apparently my husband is 85 years old and he likes grape nuts. So anyways, this episode comes out on Halloween. So I'm sure you guys are out and about doing your thing. Maybe you're with your family, maybe you're with your kids, maybe you're with your dog watching horror movies. Maybe you're getting drunk at a friend's house. I don't know what you're doing, but I hope you're having fun. And if you don't listen to this today, you have it tomorrow or the next day or the next week, whenever. But this comes out on Halloween. So happy Halloween, Ghouligans. I hope you are enjoying yourself. Without any further ado, let's get in to the spooky stories. This first story's subject line is The Shadow That Knew Too Much. Hi, Taylor. First of all, I love your podcast. Mostly, I love that you're covering a lot of stories I haven't heard about on other true crime podcasts. It's really refreshing. Is it weird to say that lesser known murder stories are refreshing? Well, I said it. And in honor of your call to action for Halloween stories, I figured I would send in mine. I've never had a reason to tell this story to anyone. And the two times I did, I was looked at like, sure. So I'm leaving the story with you in hopes that it will finally be believed. I won't look at you like I don't believe you. I totally believe you. Listen, if you guys have a story that somebody looks at you and they're like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever, send it to me. Because you know what? I'll believe you. I'm a ghoul's ghoul. She goes on to say, you know that feeling when you're walking home and the streetlights seem wrong? Like they're too dim, too heavy, like the night itself is holding its breath? Well, maybe you don't, but that's exactly how I felt the night that this happened. It was late October, the kind of foggy night where everything familiar looks like it's hiding secrets. I had just left a friend's Halloween party and decided to cut through a quiet park on my way home. I grew up in a small town called Placerville in North Carolina. Oh, not North Carolina, Taylor. Oh my God. I grew up in a small town called Placerville in Northern California. It's beautiful, but can be really creepy because it's wooded and eerie at night. Why I was walking home by myself at 12 years old, I will never understand. The 90s, am I right? Oh my God, 12 years old, just walking in the dark, walking alone home from a Halloween get together. Yeah, it sounds about right in the 90s. She goes on to say, this night was abnormally chilly, so I walked quickly to keep my blood pumping. But soon enough, I wouldn't need the brisk walk to kickstart my heart. At first, everything was normal. The crunch of the leaves under my boots, the occasional distant laughter from houses decorated with pumpkins and fake cobwebs. I was about half a mile from my house when, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something, or someone. A figure, tall, thin. It was walking on the other side of the path. At first, I thought, oh, someone else was heading home. But then I noticed it was moving exactly the way I was. If I slowed, it slowed. If I turned my head, it mirrored my movements. Oh, I really hate that. I don't like that at all. This sounds really fucking creepy. I squinted my eyes to get a better view in the dark, but all I could make out was a tall, slender figure. My brain wanted to keep moving, but my body wouldn't budge. I froze. My brain kept saying it was a coincidence, a trick of the fog, but there was no fog. Well, then there you go. Uh, but then this thing spoke softly in my voice. Wait a minute. In your own voice, like you heard yourself talking to you from across the street? Nope. Get the fuck out of there. No, thank you. It spoke in a soft voice, just like mine, but I could hear it speaking from across the street. It said, remember the time you hid the Halloween candy from your sister? Dude, this thing is just hanging out across the street from you, calling you out for shit you did when you were probably like 5. What? Who would say that? That's weird. That's a weird thing to say. Like, why of all the things would you say that? I was stunned. My heart was pounding and I was terrified. What the fuck was this thing and why did it sound like me? Now remember, I was 12, not like I had a frontal lobe hard at work. I stood there paralyzed, thinking to myself, that's not something anyone else knew. I never told anyone I stole her candy. Not something you'd expect someone to just guess. But then again, maybe it was a teenager just messing with me, saying dumb shit. There was a group of boys in the neighborhood who loved to fuck with us at any chance they got. But this thing was tall, very, very tall, and it was using my voice. I tried to convince myself it was a prankster, but the figure's shadow stretched in ways that didn't match the streetlight. And it knew things, small, intimate details about me, about my childhood, about secrets I hadn't told anyone. And the candy thing was maybe said at first to just throw me off guard, because what it went on to say shook me to my core. It looked at me from across the street and said, Tammy thinks you did it. It was in this moment that fear took over my body. Tammy was a girl I went to elementary school with. We had lost touch when she thought I took her precious Parent Trap locket. I didn't, though. It was a trivial elementary thing, but nothing I'd ever told anyone. Just a bizarre thing to say, again, kind of like the candy. And that happened in third grade. Finally, I mustered up the courage to look away and put one foot in front of the other. Slowly at first, but then I started walking faster. And when I did, it did too. So I started running. And it did too. Nope, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Something starts running after you and mimicking your every move. Get out of there. Like, call, yeah, did you scream? Were you screaming for help? I'd be screaming. As I was running, I heard it say, Kara never liked you. I stopped dead in my tracks. This brought tears to my eyes and made my hair stand up on the back of my neck. I sped up my pace, tears flowing down my cheeks. Kara had been a friend of mine. She'd passed away 2 years prior in a car accident with her mom. This statement devastated me and made me feel physically sick. Who would say that? I kept running faster and faster until finally I was full on sprinting away from this thing. I looked back and it was sprinting after me. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished, like it had never been there. I got home, slammed the door, and sat there shaking. My parents, of course, were nowhere to be found because, well, it was the 90s and they were at a Halloween party too. I tried using rational explanations to myself, a stranger who knew too much, some kind of hallucination maybe. What in the actual fuck just happened? To this day, I can't walk anywhere at night without worrying that this thing will show up again. What was it? And how did it know those things? Was it a ghost? Something that knows more about me than I do. I may never know, but I'm thankful it hasn't happened again. Well, that's my spooky Halloween story. It's not werewolves, vampires, or Ouija boards, but it was definitely something that scared me. Thank you for giving my story an outlet. Jacqueline from Sacramento. Jacqueline. First of all, parents of the year, right? Just not even home when their kid is walking home in the middle of the night from a Halloween party. Obviously, that was a very traumatizing experience, and it's really eerie and it's just unsettling that it would say something so trivial like, I know you stole your sister's candy, or Tammy thinks you did it, and then just cut to something so dark, like saying your friend doesn't like you who passed away in a car accident. Also, I'm so sorry about your friend. It's really terrible to lose anybody at any time, but especially when you're young like that, that's extremely painful. So, very sorry that happened to you, Jacqueline, and fuck that shadow figure. What the hell was that? I'm very happy that it hasn't happened to you again, and hopefully it never does. But thank you for sharing that story with us. We are going to go on to the next story now. This one's subject line is called The Seance That Shouldn't Have Been. I love a seance. Here we go. This one starts off, hello. Oh, sorry. It says Mrs. Doubtfire voice. Hello. I love the pod. I can't wait for Halloween. I have a scary story. Let's do this. Love it. Just jumping right in. Thank you. This story goes, it all started as a dare. A group of friends and I were bored one Halloween night and decided it would be quote unquote fun to hold a seance in an old abandoned house on the edge of town. The kind of house that looks normal in the daylight, but seems to warp the moment the sun sets. Being about 17 at the time and having just seen The Craft, we thought we were witches too. And she put a laughing emoji. Oh man. How many of us thought we were witches after watching that movie? Like, be so for real, you guys. Also, did you guys play light as a feather, stiff as a board at like every sleepover? Because I know we did. We played that constantly. It was so fun. She goes on to say, so we had a sleepover at my friend's house after a night of ghoulish fun hopping around to different haunted houses. Once at our friend's house, we all got the necessary tools: candles, chalk, salt, a toy Ouija board from Walmart, a few items, etc. And just before midnight, we snuck out and down the street to where the old abandoned house was. In order to get into the house, I jumped the backyard fence and opened a window that had already been ajar. This was a pretty common place for teens to do spooky shit or just hook up, so it wasn't that hard to get in. Honestly, we were surprised that no one else was there that night, considering it was Halloween. I guess everyone else was just smarter than us. When I read that, I was like, oh no. Womp, womp, womp. What happened? She goes on to say, we set up in the dusty living room, candles scattered on the floor, a circle drawn with chalk, a few personal items to anchor the spirits. At first, it was all jokes. We could not get it together. We laughed nervously and we held hands and whispered, is anyone here with us? Picture the cemetery scene in Now and Then when Chrissy is pissing off Roberta. Oh my gosh, Now and Then. If you guys have never seen that movie, go watch it right now. We'll finish this episode and then go watch it. That is one of the best movies in the world, in the whole world. Uh, Such a good, female coming of age movie. And Christina Ricci is in it. Thora Birch is in it. They're phenomenal. One of my favorite movies of all time. All right, we're back in the story now. Sorry. She said, picture the cemetery scene in Now and Then when Chrissy is pissing off Roberta. It was like that, but just unhinged teenage girl giggles. Me being more of a Samantha and my best friend more of a Roberta, we handled our shit, but our other two friends were very much the teeny and the Chrissy of the group. After having to remind them to take this witchcraft seriously, we finally all got on the same page and locked in. We decided to try to contact any spirit that would come forward. Oh, nope. See, that's where you went wrong. She says, yes, I know. Stupid. We had no clue what we were doing, and looking back, I'm thankful that a demon Babadook didn't come for our souls. As we chanted and spoke into the stale, dusty air, we began to get a little cocky because, well, nothing was happening. It was just silence, except for the occasional creak of the old floorboards. But after a few more minutes, we heard some soft knocks. 1, 2, 3, I counted on the walls, the ceiling, the floorboards themselves. We all looked at each other and froze. And that's when I came in with my cliche line, probably just the house settling. Spoiler alert, it was not the house settling. I tried to laugh it off, but it didn't feel like the house. It felt like something was watching us. We continued regardless, holding hands, voices low, calling out to the spirits. What spirits? We had no fucking idea. Oh my God, this is giving me anxiety. I already read this beforehand and it's still giving me anxiety. When suddenly the temperature dropped, each of us felt a sudden shiver and could see our breath. It was cool that evening, but not cold. We lived in North Carolina, and October wasn't exactly freezing. And just as we began to shiver, the candle flames wavered, casting shadows that stretched unnaturally across the room. There was no draft, no wind to push them. My best friend's teeth chattered as she whispered, I feel like something is behind me. The planchette on the small Ouija board we had set up started to move. Slowly at first, then with alarming speed. It spelled out a single word. Of course, we all accused each other of moving it, and we were shouting at each other to stop as we watched it spell out Leave. Leave. We all looked up at each other, speechless. Suddenly, our nervous giggles tried to cover the rising panic all of us were feeling hot in our chests. But of course, we turned and asked each other, who's doing that? And looked at each other in disbelief. But then it spelled out more words. First, N-O-W. Then, S-T-A-Y. And finally, F-O-R-E-V-E-R. We all looked at each other. Now, stay forever. Abso-fucking-lutely not. Sorry, I said that, not her. That was me. That was not in the story. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Nope on a rope. She goes on to say, we all looked at each other, suddenly aware that this was no longer fun. Yeah, it does not sound fun at this point. The knocks became louder, echoing through the house, coming from all directions. Candles extinguished themselves mid-flame, and we saw a shadow move across the room. My instincts told me to run, but I knew we had to say goodbye. Oh, fucking Ouija boards, dude. You gotta close it out so crazy stuff's happening and you gotta be like, okay, goodbye. My God. The most chaotic board game ever. Ugh. Gives me stress in my chest. One of our friends, the Chrissy of the group, was sheet white and looked like she was going to be sick. My best friend, the Roberta of the group, bolted for the door. But Taylor, I shit you not, it slammed shut in front of her face. I quickly yelled at her to get back to the circle and told everyone we had to say goodbye. Practically crying at this point, we closed it out and debated if we should leave all of our stuff there. But after a few moments of bickering that felt like an eternity, we packed up all of our belongings and booked it out the back door. We somehow made it out, spilling onto the porch, hearts pounding, the air outside thicker than before. Not one of us spoke the whole way home. We just ran. None of us slept a wink that night. But after some negotiating with the others, the next day, we decided to return to the house and check it out in daylight. And Taylor? It looked normal, just like an old, abandoned building. But here's the weird part. There was no trace of the circle we drew, no chalk marks, no sign of the candle wax that had melted into the floor. It was like no one had even been there. We vowed to never go back and do that dumb shit again. We clearly were not witches. No, I'm sorry. Doesn't sound like it. Sorry to break it to you. At least you're aware. Self-aware queen. We love it. We clearly were not witches and had no clue what we were fucking with. I still talk to all those girls, and this happened 15 years ago. Every once in a while, one of us will bring it up in a Halloween DM or a group chat. And since that Halloween night, we wonder, did we open a door that should have stayed closed? Or did our imaginations get the best of us? I'm good not finding out. Well, I hope you enjoyed my dumbass teenager Halloween story. It has kept me up at night on more than a few occasions, and hopefully, it'll keep you up too. Stay spooky, but don't go to abandoned houses thinking you're a witch and conjuring up some crazy shit you don't understand. Marin from North Carolina. Oh, Marin. Oh my God. So that story, when I first read it, gave me actual chills all over my body. And it made me think back to when I was a stupid teenager and me and my friends did shit like that. And just like, don't. Just don't. Don't do that. If any teenagers are listening, stop it. Go do your homework and maybe play outside. But in case your parents are aware you're listening to this, don't do what Marin did and don't do things that I did either. Some of that stuff we don't understand. And as much as we want to be, witches at heart, we're not, and we don't get how to do it properly. So if you're not going to do it properly, don't do it at all. I think that's the moral of the story. Okay, just don't fuck with it. All right, moving on to story number 3. This one has the subject line, "Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm not going to read it to you. That'll give it away." Oh, okay. You guys are not ready for this one. Everybody take a collective deep breath. Okay. Here we go. Hi, Taylor. I'm sure you've gotten tons of submissions so far, but you definitely want to read this one. I'm throwing mine in the ring because it is so insane. I didn't even believe it myself until my aunt confirmed it. My mom told me this story every Halloween growing up, and I never fully believed her until about 6 years ago when my aunt was in town during the month of October, and my mom began telling the story again. It went like this. It was Halloween in the early 80s. She was about 8 years old and lived in Des Moines, Illinois, and was trick-or-treating in Cook County. That night, she was bundled up in her little witch costume, running from house to house with her friends. They did this every year, and the parents loved it because they all walked around with their beer cans and cigarettes, watching the kids ever so casually ring strangers' doorbells. Oh, the 80s. One house always stood out, though. It was decorated differently. It was very eerie because of the clown decor and the man who lived there that also dressed like a clown each year to hand out candy. The kids hesitated each time. I guess their little intuitions were firing off red flags. But my mom, being fearless even as a kid, marched up to the door every year and was always the first to knock. The door creaked open, and a man wearing that same creepy clown outfit and a wide smile handed them candy. My mom remembers thinking the candy tasted strange, almost metallic, but She didn't think much of it. She said it could be her memory trying to make things more sinister than it was. The kids laughed, said thank you, and ran off to the next house, never suspecting anything was wrong. At the time, it seemed like a perfectly normal, if slightly eccentric Halloween. It wasn't until a few years later that my mom and everyone else in Cook County learned the horrifying truth about the very man who lived in that house and what lied beneath it. That house belonged to a man who would later be identified as one of the most notorious serial killers in the country. That very man whose smiling face she remembered handing her candy had been committing unspeakable crimes behind closed doors. Yep, I'm sure you know by now, but that man was John Wayne Gacy. When I first read this story's not done, but when I first read this story, the the visceral disgust I felt, could you imagine, like, as a parent or even as a kid, that you went trick or treating at John Wayne Gacy's house? There were little boys, like, there were children in his crawl space at that time. This story is fucking insane. Your mom literally took candy from a stranger who ended up being a a psychopath. Oh my God. This is probably one of the craziest Booze Clues stories I've ever received in my whole life, or in the past, I don't know, few months I've been doing this podcast. Uh, anyways, let's jump back in. She told me about the unease that she felt even as a kid, how something about the house always felt off, but she could never have imagined what was really happening inside. As I mentioned before, I never really believed her, and my grandmother died before I could ever verify the story. It wasn't until my aunt was visiting and my mom started with the story again that my aunt said, Elaine, I don't even want to think about that disgusting man ever again. I looked at my aunt, eyes bulging out of my head, and said, What? It's true? I genuinely thought she had made it up just to scare me into not trusting strangers or some crazy parent shit like that. But I was wrong. It was very, very true. My aunt looked sickly as she explained how to this day she can't eat a payday or 100 grand bar because those were some of the candies they always got from him on Halloween. She shut down the conversation and said, That man is evil, and I will not speak of him. Those poor boys. And that was that. And that was that. But my mom will still tell the story to anyone that will listen because, well, she's a true crime girly, and honestly, this may have sparked her interest. She will tell it every Halloween to anyone that she deems worthy. And when she tells the story, her voice still wavers a little bit. Yeah, I would think so. Alexa from Chicago, I would think so. Because what the fuck do you mean? She grew up knowing that she took candy from a guy who did that. I have no words. It's just feelings. I have a lot of feelings about this. It's terrifying. It's really fucking terrifying. Just the fact that a monster like that lived on the same street as everyone else and was doing all those terrible things, and kids were just showing up at his house taking candy. Like, oh my God. Really, I hate people. I hate society so much. Oh my God. Okay, so her mom will tell the story to anyone she deems worthy. My mom says she wonders if he used to watch the boys on Halloween. I prefer not to imagine, but I understand her curiosity. So that's the time my mom took candy from a killer, and I didn't believe her. Stay safe out there and always accompany your children to the homes they trick or treat at. You never know what happens behind closed doors. Yeah, that's so true. I don't let my kids do anything by themselves because I'm paranoid for a good reason. For shit like this. This is why I'm paranoid. And yeah, I don't trust anybody. So absolutely. I don't care if your kids are 17, like know where they are, know where they're going. That's terrifying. Alexa goes on to say, Keep up the awesome podcast. You really do have a gift for storytelling and a very soothing voice. I could listen all day. Happy Halloween and trust your lizard brain when it tells you someone is a creep. Absolutely, Alexa. That's why we have our lizard brains. so that we know when someone is a creep. Also, thank you. You're so sweet for saying that you would listen all day to my voice. Do you like it like this? Is it better if I talk like this? I'm just kidding. What if I did that? What if I actually talked into the microphone like that all the time? It's like, hello and welcome to Booze Clues. Today we're going to talk. No, sorry. You know who does have a really soothing voice though is Phoebe Judge from Criminal. I wish I could talk like her. She is so soothing. Like I want her to tell me bedtime stories. She kind of does because sometimes I listen to her when I go to bed because I'm that person. I'll like listen to a true crime podcast when I'm going to sleep. But I don't know why I have anxiety. It's a mystery to me. Okay. This next story is also insane. I don't have any other words to describe it other than insane. All of these stories are really good, but I've saved some of the best for last because holy shit. Okay. The subject line of this one, do I tell you guys? Okay, I'll tell you this one. It does not do the story justice. So I'm going to tell it to you, but I need you to keep an open mind. Okay? Everyone keep an open mind. This subject line says black eyed kids encounter and sleep paralysis. It starts off, Taylor, I am so glad. I love how you guys just like say my name. You make me feel so seen. Thank you. Taylor, why did I say it like that? I don't know. It's so weird to read my own name. I'm sorry. I'm not going to ever get used to this. This is wild. Taylor, I am so glad you asked for Halloween stories because this one is burned into my memory forever. I never believed in urban legends until Halloween of 2018. I'm sure you've heard of black eyed kids and will eventually cover them, but in case you don't, you can today. It was about 10 p.m. I was walking home from a small Halloween gathering at a friend's house through a quiet suburban street. It felt safe because I lived in such a small, quiet town. Our neighborhood was the kind where people on the neighborhood Facebook group would ask whose car was parked on the side of the street and would call the cops. Nosy as fuck, and no one got away with anything. But it made for a safe environment. You know, we got a neighborhood like that too. They're the best kind. Everyone is pretty on point with figuring out what's going on in the neighborhood at all times. And sometimes people get a little, they go a little too Karen. They go a little too hard with their Karening, but the Karens will Karen. They do it. But most of the time, it's good stuff. We look out for each other. Everyone has Ring cameras. It's great, and we always are on the lookout. So makes me feel a bit safer. Okay, back in the story. My costume that night was very simple: overalls, pigtails, and stitches on my face. Yep, I was Chucky. As I walked, I noticed two kids standing on the curb, maybe 10 or 11 years old, dressed as what looked like Victorian children. They looked off and lost. Their skin was extremely pale. Their hair was slicked back. I thought, wow, that's some dedication. Good for them. But as I got closer, my stomach dropped. As I passed under the street lamp, I saw their eyes. They were pitch black, not just dark brown, not just deep set eyes, black as a void and huge. I froze. What in the fuck? I sped walked toward my house, which was thankfully only a few feet away. I got out my key nervously. You know that feeling when you're trying to do something quickly because you're scared, but you can't move fast enough? Yep, that was me. Could not get that key out fast enough. Finally, after what felt like a century, I got my door unlocked and greeted my dog. I closed the door behind me, locking it firmly. And it wasn't even 30 seconds before I heard a knock and a little voice. Knock, knock, knock. Can we come in? One whispered, voice very soft and unnaturally calm. I laughed nervously, almost shitting myself. I'm out of candy. Maybe at the next house, I said through the door. I peeked through the peephole. They didn't move. They didn't smile. They didn't blink. They just stood there. The little girl said, we just want to come inside. Please? We can't find our way home. We'd like to use your phone, please. Every single alarm in my body was going off. Something about them set off every single survival instinct I had. Every horror movie I'd ever watched screamed at me to keep the door shut and not respond. But at the same time, these were kids. And it was Halloween. It was also cold and late at night. What kind of person would I be if these were lost children and I left them out there in the cold? But I could not shake the feeling of these children being so incredibly off. It's hard to explain, but this feeling of dread and fear took over my entire body. I replied, I I don't think that's a good idea. I can call someone to come get you if you give me their number. My dog isn't friendly and he may hurt you. Now, in reality, my dog was a sweetheart, but even he looked alarmed. His tail was pointed and his head was low. When I struggled to accept my own intuition, I usually rely on his. Around children, he's a goofball and he can't wait to greet them with a kiss. But this time, he just looked ahead, like he was stalking something. The kids knocked once more, and my dog let out a low growl. I told them they needed to either give me their number or I could call the police to help them. The kids didn't say another word. They just stared. I looked back down at my dog for just a split second and then through the peephole again, and they were gone, just vanished into the shadows of the street. My heart was racing. My palms were so sweaty. I bolted to my back door, making sure it was locked, along with all the windows and the garage. That night, I tried to sleep. I desperately tried, but my body betrayed me. I woke up and I couldn't move. My eyes were open. I could see the room where I was sleeping, but I couldn't lift a finger. And I could see myself from above me. And that's when I felt it, the presence, a cold, oppressive weight on my chest. I couldn't scream and I couldn't call for help. All I could do was just watch. And that's when I saw them, two shadowy figures in the corner of my room. Their black eyes glimmered in the darkness. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. And just as suddenly as it started, it ended. My body moved again. The figures were gone, and I was drenched in sweat. This had never happened to me before. So, of course, like any millennial, I took to the internet to look up my symptoms. Did it tell you were dying? Because that's usually what it tells me. It was sleep paralysis. So I was confused because it mentioned that people usually struggle with this throughout their life, and I had never had it. So I dug deeper and I asked the internet about these kids that I saw and if it could maybe have just been fear and overwhelm causing my sleep paralysis. And that's when I came upon a good old Reddit thread about BEKs, black eyed kids. And when I tell you, my jaw hit the floor and my stomach did a full 360 inside my body. I am dead serious. I felt sick and terrified. This is exactly what I had experienced. And the sleep paralysis, it was absolutely related. There were theories online that BEKs were children of shadow people. And honestly, after this, I believe it. I've never forgotten that night. Black-eyed children, sleep paralysis that never happened to me again, all to come to the terrifying realization that maybe some legends aren't just stories. Sometimes they're waiting for you right outside your door in the dark on Halloween night. So, there you have it, a black-eyed kid's experience as real as the ground we walk on and the air we breathe. Happy Halloween, and don't open your door to any creepy kids with dead eyes. Sophia. Oh, Sophia, listen. I've read a lot about black-eyed kids, and the first time I ever heard about them was actually on Two Girls, One Ghost. I'd never heard about them before until I discovered that podcast. I was listening to it like years ago, and they were talking about black-eyed kids, and I was like, what in the hell are you talking about? What the helly? Oh my God, you guys. The rabbit holes I went down about these black-eyed kids. I will do an episode on them eventually, but so many people have had experiences that are just like Sophia's, like just completely unexplainable and terrifying. I'm sorry. I love kids. Literally, I'm a teacher, right? If a kid came to my door and was like, "Please, ma'am, will you help me?" And I don't know why they're British, but if they came to my door and they said they needed help, I would instinctually want to help them. I'm also a mom. Like I'm not just going to leave a kid out in the cold. So I get when she says that what kind of person would she be just leaving these kids out there? But you know what? You did the right thing. I love how you used your dog and we're like, "Oh, my dog's kinda mean. He might hurt you." Because even if it's a real kid and not a black-eyed kid, maybe it's just like a really elaborate Halloween costume, and maybe the kids are, I don't know, like, homeschooled or something. And they're, like, really awkward. I don't know. Not that homeschooled kids are all awkward. My nieces and nephews aren't, but just, you know what I mean? Like, some kids don't know how to converse with people. Even if it was that situation, you would assume that they would, like, give you their parents' phone number, and if they don't know their parents' phone number, because let's be real, how many kids actually know their parents' numbers these days? I make my kids know ours, but if they don't, then yeah, calling the police to come and get them, like, come and help them would be the next best thing. I would do that. I would be like, "Yeah, you guys stay right there. I can't let you in because my dog is kinda mean, but, let me call the police, let me see what I can do to help you." The fact that they just disappeared, just like poof, gone, terrifying. Terrifying. Nothing scarier than a creepy kid. I'm sorry. That's awful. Black-eyed kids are so scary. Okay. We've come to the last story, you guys. This is the last one. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you more, but otherwise this episode would be way too long. This last one though is so good. If you're a ghost hunter, you like investigating, amateur or professional ghost hunter, whatever it may be, you're going to love this story. So here we go. It starts off, Taylor, exclamation point. Love the pod and love you. My friend Rachel actually told me about this podcast and it's quickly become one of my favorite. She found you on TikTok and said, quote, "You always want new podcasts. Check out this one and let's go here," end quote. Then she sent me a link to your Dead Children's Playground episode. I've been hooked ever since. Now, we haven't gone to that Dead Children's Playground yet, but this past Halloween, I decided to do something a little extreme. I've always been fascinated by the paranormal, hence my obsession with your podcast. So naturally, I decided, why not spend the night ghost hunting at Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Kentucky instead of handing out candy? Oh, you guys, when I read this, I was like, yes, yes. Oh my gosh, I've always wanted to go here. So finally, other a person's experience that, they can tell me what happened. I don't have to go looking for it on the internet or like watch paranormal videos, even though I love those. Don't get me wrong, I love them. But actually having somebody's experience emailed to me is so cool. Guys, I want to go here so bad. All right, locking in. Here we go. Taylor, I know you know this place. All us spooky girls do. But if anyone is listening who doesn't know about it, here's a very short little backstory. It's one of the most infamous haunted spots in the country. Originally used as a tuberculosis hospital, and it is now abandoned and used for historical and ghost tours. It is said that countless restless spirits still wander its halls, and I can confirm, after my visit, that this is very, very true. I got there just as the sun was setting, and the building loomed over the valley like some dark sentinel. The air was beautiful, 66 degrees, and the wind whistled through the broken windows in a way that almost sounded like voices. There were about a dozen other ghost hunters there for a guided investigation, but I had my own tape recorder and a digital camera, determined to catch something real. At first, it was a little unsettling, sure, but not terrifying. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways, doors creaked, and sometimes you'd hear the old structure groan as if it were alive. But everything changed when I got to room 502. This was the former patient ward. The temperature dropped sharply, and my recorder picked up whispers that no one around me had spoken. And then I heard it clearly over the hum of the building, a child's voice, very soft and repeating, "Don't go, don't go, don't go." I told the guide I caught something, and we all stayed silent for what felt like an hour, but was really only about 10 minutes. And it was worth it because I got another staticky EVP. It said, "Stay with us." I felt a chill crawl up my spine, and when I glanced toward the hallway, I saw a shadow flick across the doorway. One of the women in the group said, "Nope, no way," and asked the guide to have someone escort her out. She had been brought by her daughter and was hesitant already, so this sent her over the edge. I can't blame her, honestly, but I thought it was so fucking cool. Yeah, that reminds me of when my husband and I went to the Zach Bagans Museum. And there were 2 people on the tour that were like, "Get me out." They were like, "Goodbye. I'm not doing this anymore." I thought it was cool, even though something, burned my back, but I thought it was awesome. All right, back in the story. Later, I made my way to the infamous body chute, the tunnel where bodies were supposedly transported from the hospital to the bottom of the hill. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, and then I heard it, a low, guttural moan that seemed to come from everywhere at once. And for a split second, my light illuminated a figure, tall, hunched, almost skeletal, before it vanished completely. That one was a bit harder to come to terms with, and I still sometimes think it was the light playing a trick on my eyes because no one else saw it. By the end of the night, I was physically shaken. My equipment recorded strange anomalies, whispers, moving shadows, cold spots. We all felt them, and that I couldn't explain. Even sitting safely in my hotel room later, replaying the EVPs, I kept thinking about that child's voice and the shadow in the hallway. Were they the spirits of those who suffered in that place? It was by far one of the most amazing paranormal experiences I've ever had. And I've been to quite a few places. Sometimes you get nothing, and sometimes the spirits are extremely chatty. If you're ever in the area or want to make an impulsive spooky decision, I highly recommend investigating here. I'll never forget that Halloween. Waverly Hills isn't scary, in my opinion. It's history, and it's hauntingly beautiful. And as long as you're kind to the spirits, suspend your disbelief, and give them a safe space, they will deliver. Happy Halloween, and may the hauntings be ever in your favor. Hannah from Ohio. Oh, I love that. Hannah, I'm gonna steal that. Okay. I might put that on a shirt. May the hauntings be ever in your favor. I love that. Oh my God. Hannah, you're a fucking genius. All right, Hannah from Ohio. Thank you. Thank you so much for sending that in to me. I've always wanted to go there, and your experience just made me want to go there even more. That sounds absolutely incredible. Now, if you're scared of shit like that, don't go there. It's fine. You don't have to. But I love experiencing stuff like that because it shows me that there really are things that we can't explain in this world. I am all about it. I'm all about all the spooky shit. Well, obviously, I have this podcast. I will never stop searching for answers to the paranormal. Like I'm never going to stop. I just won't. And I think it's beautiful what Hannah said about it being, it's history and it is hauntingly beautiful. I think it's important that we know what happened in places like that and how there might still be energy stuck there. And maybe they're trying to communicate with us. So thank you, Hannah. I think I've said thank you like 10 million times, but really, you guys are awesome. Like these stories, I know I said it at the top at the beginning of the episode, but you knocked it out of the park. I was not expecting stories like this, and y'all came through. You came through. Thank you. Thank you, Ghouligans. I'm going to end every spooky episode now with may the hauntings be ever in your favor. I say I'm going to say it at the end of every spooky episode, and then maybe I won't. I don't know. I forget shit all the time. But that's a good one. Originally I was like, oh, I'm going to start saying thanks for coming to my dead talk after a spooky episode. I think I said it like 3 times and then I forgot. So that's just my brain. Welcome to my brain and how it works. Well, you guys, that's all the stories I have for you. I hope you have a fucking amazing Halloween. I hope you stay safe. I hope you make good choices. I hope you see something spooky that makes you believe in the paranormal. And I hope that you come back for the next episode. I don't have it planned yet because it's been a crazy week, but I'm on it because this is like a job that I don't get paid for now. But you know what? I really enjoy it. I love this podcast. I want to do this forever, like as long as I possibly can. This is amazing. And I really like the community that we have made together. So thank you guys for writing in. It really means a lot to me. Thank you for listening. And if you like this episode, make sure you share it with a friend. Make sure you share it with a loved one. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Go follow the podcast everywhere and go get some merch. I'm leaving it up for about 2 more weeks, all the spooky merch. So go get it while you can. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Don't get haunted. Stay spooky. And as always, remember to trust your lizard brain. Until next time, Goodbye. Happy Halloween.